Forget everything you think you know about what the Large Hadron Collider actually does. Forget the textbook illustrations of tiny spheres orbiting each other. Forget the comforting idea that physicists in Geneva are simply building better microscopes to peer at smaller and smaller pieces of the same familiar matter that makes up your kitchen table. That story, however elegant it sounds in a high school classroom, is a polished, beautiful lie. The reality of what happens inside that 17-mile ring of superconducting magnets buried beneath the Franco-Swiss border is something categorically more violent, more strange, and more philosophically shattering than anything a simple magnifying glass metaphor could ever contain. What the Large Hadron Collider actually is, stripped of all romantic framing, is a machine designed to do something that sounds physically impossible. It accelerates bundles of protons to within a fraction of a percent of the speed of light and then forces them to collide head-on, not to look at what protons are made of in any simple sense, but to convert the raw, staggering kinetic energy of that collision into entirely new forms of matter and energy that do not ordinarily exist anywhere in our universe at this moment in cosmic history. The collider is not a passive observatory. It is a colossal, precision-engineered engine of physical destruction, built to hammer the subatomic fabric of spacetime with so much pure kinetic force that nature has no choice but to reveal architectural secrets it has kept hidden since the first fraction of a second after the Big Bang. And among the most profound and unsettling of those secrets, one that data from the collider has persistently and stubbornly gestured toward, is the possibility that our universe has spatial dimensions we have never directly seen, and that the collider may have been accidentally knocking energy directly into them. To understand what that means physically, I want you to hold a particular image in your mind. Imagine you are standing at the absolute bottom of an ocean, so vast and so dark and so cold that the water itself is nearly frozen solid. The pressure at these depths is incomprehensible. The darkness is total. And somewhere in this freezing, pitch-black abyss, you have been given two extraordinary objects. They are crystalline clocks, impossibly beautiful, glowing with an inner light, constructed from thousands of interlocking gears and resonating chambers of extraordinary precision. Your task is this. You are to take these two glowing crystalline clocks and hurl them at each other at a speed approaching the speed of light, directly there in the freezing dark water. Now, a naive observer might say you are trying to study the gears. You are not. The collision produces a flash of pure kinetic energy so intense, so concentrated, that it momentarily boils the freezing ocean around the impact point, creating a microscopic bubble of raw energy in which entirely new, exotic structures briefly condense out of the sheer violence before dissolving back into the cold, dark water within a fraction of a second. The scientists surrounding this event are not cataloging shattered gears. They are measuring the total energy of the explosion, mapping every single ripple and fragment in the boiling water, trying to account for every quantum of energy that went in. And now imagine that after the explosion fades and the freezing water settles, you perform your accounting and you find that a significant amount of kinetic energy is simply gone, not converted into heat, not transformed into new particles floating in the water. Gone, vanished. The mathematical ledger does not balance. The energy that entered the collision is not present in any form you can measure in the ocean around you. But here is where the physics becomes something genuinely terrifying and beautiful simultaneously. The energy did not vanish. Conservation of energy is one of the most deeply tested and inviolable laws in all of physics. Energy cannot simply cease to exist. What the missing energy tells you, the only explanation that does not require you to throw away the entire edifice of physical law, is that the blinding flash of the collision was powerful enough to knock a microscopic pulse of pure momentum not into the freezing water around it, but directly upward, out of the ocean entirely, into a hidden layer of reality sitting directly above the ocean's surface that you never knew existed. A layer your senses cannot detect, that no instrument in the water can directly measure, but whose existence is now written unmistakably in the missing numbers of your energy accounting. This is not a metaphor for something vague. This is a precise physical description of what the phenomenon physicists call missing transverse energy actually means when it appears in data from proton-proton collisions at the LHC. And to understand why it carries the weight it does, you need to internalize the absolute nature of the conservation laws that govern every collision inside that detector. When two protons collide at nearly the speed of light inside the ATLAS or CMS detectors, the collision products explode outward in all directions. The detectors themselves are structures of almost incomprehensible engineering ambition. Instruments, the physical size of ancient cathedrals, layered with hundreds of millions of individual sensors, built for a single overriding purpose. Every particle that emerges from the collision must be tracked. Every fragment of energy, every quantum of momentum in every direction must be measured and cataloged. The total momentum of the system going into the collision is known with extraordinary precision. By the ironclad law of conservation of momentum, the total momentum of everything coming out of the collision must balance the books perfectly. There is no wiggle room. There is no rounding error at the scale physicists are working at. The mathematics is absolute. So when the detectors register a collision where the momentum of the outgoing particles is measurably, significantly unbalanced, when there is a vector of missing transverse momentum pointing in a specific direction with a specific magnitude and nothing in the detector to account for it, the physics community does not shrug. The missing momentum is not a technical error. It is a physical signature. It is the footprint of something that left the three-dimensional surface of our reality carrying momentum with it. Something that does not interact with the electromagnetic field, does not interact with the strong nuclear force, does not interact with the weak nuclear force, and therefore passes through every layer of the cathedral-sized detector as if the detector simply does not exist. The question that has consumed theoretical physicists for decades is precisely what that something is. The most profound and elegant answer, and the one that connects this experimental signature to a much deeper question about the architecture of space-time itself, involves the nature of gravity. Gravity is, by an almost incomprehensible margin, the weakest force in nature. If you hold a small magnet above a paperclip, the electromagnetic force of that tiny magnet pulling upward on the paperclip effortlessly overpowers the gravitational force of the entire mass of the Earth pulling downward on it. The paperclip rises. This is not a curiosity. It is a screaming, unresolved theoretical crisis. The other forces of nature, electromagnetism, and the nuclear forces, are all described by quantum field theory with extraordinary precision, and they all operate at roughly comparable strengths. Gravity is weaker by a factor of approximately 10 to the power of 36. That number is so large, it essentially has no everyday analog. In theoretical physics, this catastrophic mismatch is called the hierarchy problem, and it sits at the center of some of the most serious and sustained efforts in modern fundamental physics. String theory and its geometrical offspring offer one of the most physically stunning possible resolutions. What if gravity is not actually weak at all? What if the force of gravity is, at its source, precisely as strong as the other forces, but it behaves differently because the particle that carries it, the graviton, is not confined to our three-dimensional surface the way matter and the other force-carrying particles are? What if gravitons, alone among all particles, are free to propagate not just through the three dimensions of length, width, and height, but through the full higher-dimensional bulk of space-time, spreading their influence across hidden extra dimensions that normal matter cannot access? From the perspective of a physicist living on our three-dimensional surface, gravity would appear diluted, because its lines of force are spreading out across spatial directions we cannot see. The gravity we measure is only the small fraction of gravitational force that happens to be oriented along our three dimensions. If this picture is physically correct, then a proton-proton collision energetic enough to produce a graviton would not see that graviton decay inside the detector. It would escape. It would slip off our three-dimensional brain, as string theorists call our surface, and propagate freely into the higher dimensional bulk, carrying with it a precise quantum of momentum and energy that our detectors could never capture. The signature it would leave behind is a collision event where the transverse momentum ledger simply does not close, a missing energy event pointing in a direction where nothing visible went. This is the graviton leakage scenario, and it connects the mundane-sounding phrase, missing transverse energy, directly to the possibility that the universe has spatial dimensions we have never directly perceived. But there is a third physical signature, and in many ways it is the most geometrically profound. If extra dimensions exist and are not infinite but are instead curled up tightly at some small but non-zero length scale, then particles that propagate through those compact dimensions will obey the same quantum mechanical rules that govern electrons and atoms. They will only be permitted to carry certain discrete, quantized amounts of momentum in those compact directions. And from the perspective of a physicist confined to our three-dimensional surface, those quantized extra-dimensional momentum states will not look like momentum at all. By the deep equivalence between energy and mass and special relativity, those extra packets of momentum will appear to be mass. A standard particle traveling through a compact extra dimension will appear to us as a particle with the same fundamental quantum numbers as the original, the same spin, the same charges, but with a dramatically increased, discretely elevated mass. These are called Kaluza-Klein modes, named for the two physicists who first glimpsed this geometric truth in the early decades of the 20th century. And they are, in the most literal physical sense, heavy echoes of normal particles, ghost clones carrying the fingerprint of hidden spatial geometry encoded in their mass. Finding a Kaluza-Klein mode in a particle detector would be among the most geometrically direct measurements in the history of physics. The mass spacing between successive Kaluza-Klein modes encodes, through a straightforward mathematical relationship, the circumference of the compact extra dimension. You would not merely be discovering that extra dimensions exist, you would be measuring the size of them. You would be performing a geometric survey of spatial directions that no human being has ever directly sensed, using the masses of particles as your ruler. The detector becomes a geometric instrument, not just for probing the small, but for probing the hidden. What persists when you hold all of this together? The missing transverse energy, the graviton escape, the heavy quantum echoes, is not a collection of exotic theoretical fantasies, but a coherent, interlocking physical framework that addresses some of the deepest questions the universe has ever forced us to confront. The LHC data has shown, repeatedly and in multiple independent analyses, anomalous signatures that stubbornly resist complete explanation within the standard model alone. Not proof, not a confirmed discovery, but persistent, reproducible, peer-reviewed data that sits uncomfortably in the gap between what we know and what we can fully explain. And this is where I want to leave you, not with summary or repetition, but with the thought that actually matters. There is something almost unbearably moving about what the physicists at CERN are doing in that tunnel beneath the Alps. They are not simply building a bigger instrument. They are performing an act of raw intellectual audacity, subjecting the fabric of space-time to pressures not seen since the earliest moments of cosmic history, and then listening, with instruments of cathedral scale, for whispers of physics that lies beyond everything we have ever confirmed. The mathematics of missing transverse energy is not cold or lifeless. It is the sound of our universe admitting that it contains more than we are able to see. And the human capacity to hear that admission, to read the invisible in the shape of an unbalanced momentum ledger, to look at an absence and deduce from it the geometry of a hidden dimension, is among the most extraordinary things this peculiar, conscious arrangement of matter has ever managed to do with itself.